Brown it.
What's up, guys? This is Michael with On the Offside, and today I'm here with Derek, Matt, and Colby. Got a lot to talk about today. Some good things, some bad things. It'll be interesting. So we'll go ahead and start with the college football playoffs this weekend, and start with Bama and Cincinnati. Honestly, that game kind of went exactly how I thought it would. It's no knock on Cincinnati. Congratulations on the season they had getting to the playoffs, but I think we all called that pretty much. We said that we didn't think it'd really be close and said Bama would win the game, and that's really all I got on that, guys. Matt, I know you probably got some more to break down on that, but Cincinnati just were outmatched.
Yeah, this was just the scoreboard really, and we say this often, it's kind of cliche, but the scoreboard does not do it justice. This was an absolute beatdown. Nick Saban wanted to prove a point. He took 2 generic plays out of the Madden 2005 playbook and just said, this is our offense. Good luck. And, Bama had over 200 yards rushing. I think I read, I haven't verified this, but Cincinnati had 2 drives that they gained more than 6 yards on. It was just a clear answer as to why you don't have these group of 5 teams in the playoffs. They play a different sport. The scheduling is different. You're not used to playing this caliber of talent throughout the season. And Bama just highlighted that on the field. So, yeah, I was pleased. Bad news is Bama does have some injuries going into the Natty, so kind of concerning there, but we will see.
Yeah, echoing off what Matt said, this is it was a throwback to kind of, early Saban, what we like to see, shove it down their throat, which is what they did. I mean, they just executed their will. I mean, Cincinnati, by the third, fourth quarter, it was over with. Just running straight up the middle. You had Robinson over 200 yards. Fun fact I thought was kind of interesting. Cincinnati's most effective offensive player was a former Alabama running back. Which, just kind of ironic, I mean, the one player on their team that actually kind of did anything at all was from Alabama. Obviously, look forward to next. This game wasn't a shock to anybody, in this podcast. But I like seeing that old school football. It was fun to watch.
I think you guys captured everything pretty well. I don't think there's really anything else to add. 482 yards to 218 yards. To go off what Matt said, the game looks even closer, even at the final score, than the game actually, was watching it. Alabama just looked like they dominated the line of scrimmage from the very get-go, and they beat Cincinnati the way that we thought they would.
Yeah. So that one kind of went the way we thought it would. Moving on to the next one with Georgia and Michigan. We all predicted Georgia to win that game, but I will say I was surprised at the way they won that game. I think Georgia came out and had something to prove after the loss they took to the SEC. There was a lot of talk. I've seen a lot of mixed reviews on what people thought that, a lot of people were taking Michigan to win that the way they've been playing. And Georgia shut that up pretty quick. Never was close. And it was kind of a recipe for disaster. I mean, Michigan's main thing is when you're running the ball and your quarterback is your strongest point at passing and everything's not the strongest point they have, and then you're going against Georgia's defense. And, those are some big guys to try to run the ball on. And honestly, I mean, Georgia just controlled that game. Stetson Bennett got to play pretty comfortably because, run game was looking good. Defense was doing what they needed to do. And it wasn't like when they were playing Bama and they was having to play like catch up the whole time. It was they just a commanding game with Georgia there. Proven, Georgia's still one of the top teams in the nation. I think going to make an interesting championship. We'll get into that later. But shocked me at how bad they beat them. But, yeah, it was dominating, just like – it was like how Bama dominated Cincinnati, honestly. In fact, the score, I think, was even farther apart there. But yeah, Michigan really were just kind of in over their head on that one. So
Yeah. I think I said last week, first one to break 20. Shocked that it got that high at 34. You're not going to run the ball against Georgia, at least effectively, unless possibly Alabama. Who knows? And that was Michigan's strong suit. I mean, strong defense, don't get me wrong, but offensively, they're a run first offense. And it just it was kind of a disaster. I mean, you knew it was not going to work. And Georgia shut it down. I don't think Michigan had 100 yards rushing. And if you don't do that, you're not going to win the game. So obviously, Georgia took care of business, just kind of like we expected.
Yeah, I think I said coming into this game, pretty much Michigan's best shot would be, put pressure on Bennett. They had 0 sacks. They relied heavily on their defense this year with Hutchinson and Ojabo. 0 sacks between the both of them. Haskins has been a big part of that offense. He had 39 yards rushing. Stetson Bennett looked efficient. 313 yards, 3 TDs. Michigan threw 2 picks. Georgia looked like the Georgia team that we had seen all season, except for the last Bama game. So, Georgia looks good. I'm excited for the national championship. So.
Yeah, this seemed like a statement game by Georgia. They were tired of hearing the talk that they were overrated, that Bama was big brother, which, thoughts aside on that, this was a really quality win for them. And it gives them a lot of momentum going into that national championship game. I think this helped the Georgia players and team to buy back into the belief that they can go all the way. Bama beats you 41-24, you're kind of down on yourself and you're wondering, do you have what it takes to go the distance? Now, after a win like this, I think you totally buy back into that. Michigan just, man, it's just a Big Ten loss right here. This is just a Big Ten playing either Alabama or Georgia. It is what it is. Aiden Hutchinson was a non-factor in the game. I wonder if he's going to slip a little bit in the draft because of it. Probably going to come down to if a team actually needs a defensive line player early in the draft or not. I still think he's a top 5 pick if someone does have that need. But it was just a good game by Georgia. They are fully in this. We've got a big game coming up. It's going to be a close one. This just felt like what Georgia wanted to bring to the Bama game. They brought it this game. So.
yeah, for sure. No, I don't think no surprise that who we had in the Natty. I think we both, or all of us, pretty much knew it was going predicted Alabama and Georgia. So, getting into a bowl game that I am really struggling with wanting to talk about here, but at the same time I have some things to say, and it's the UT bowl game. And what a game if you were just watching and you love offense. If you're a person that loves offense, there's absolutely no defense. But and just a hard fought game, honestly. I mean, players were absolutely exhausted by the end of this game, especially Purdue with all the cramps. I mean, I know it was really hot there in Nashville. Nice, comfortable, 50s. But anyways, so there's my first thing is I'm really tired of the cramps going on. When players are legitimately injured, I understand. I hate to see injuries. I hate to be the guy that's like, oh, he's faking it. But at some point, come on, some of them are faking it. And on these offenses that are move fast and do all that, there needs to be some kind of – I don't know what they can do to prevent that happening, but there needs to be something because that really does slow – I mean, it changes the game right there. The one I seen in particular was someone – he literally was walking, looked over towards the sideline, took a knee, and then kind of went down like he had a cramp. And I was like, I think Hendon Hooker even like kind of threw his hands up like again, but so moving on past that though, obviously the play at the end of the game in overtime, and I want to say like I have an understanding of the rule. I know what had happened. Can't review it because the ref called it forward progress stopped. But as the ref, how do you call forward progress stopped in that case? And second, we need to be able to review that. In moments like that, the guy was still moving, still driving his feet. He was not down yet, and he extended his arm across the goal line. That should have been a touchdown. I'm not saying Tennessee wins right there, nothing, but they could have very well went out and scored the next drive and ended up winning the game. But the fact that the game ended like it did there, that for me is just rough that can't be reviewed and frustrating. And some people are arguing, well, there was a player that was counting from Tennessee pulling forward, but that's very touchy. What I was looking at, it wasn't like he was grabbing and really just yanking him forward. But I mean, I did see what they were talking about. But for me, I don't know. It was rough to watch as a Tennessee fan, and I know we're biased to an extent on that. Obviously, it's your team, but I just personally, in that case, I don't see how that gets called the way it did. But I've not had a problem with Tennessee coaching all year. I think we got a great coach. But in the end of the game, why were we airing it out when we need to get our field goal kicker in range instead of kicking a 57-yard field goal to win the game? We throw something towards the middle or out or right on the sideline. You had timeouts. Get 10 or 15 more yards, get him in range, and win the game right there. So, and then it doesn't come down to a controversial call. I know by rule, I understand the way the rule is technically. And technically, if the guy's pulling on the player forward, you can call it forward progress stop. And if we're going to be really, really technical, I guess. But I just hate that call right there. I just think that's very touchy. I think that was just really nitpicking at it, and how do you and in live, especially, and I don't know, it just how can that not be reviewed? I think that needs to be something to looked at there in that case. But disappointing. I mean, great season for Tennessee compared to what they were supposed to have. I'm not going to take away from that, and I'm not going to. And a great bowl game. I mean, that was they fought hard on it, so it's kind of hard to. That it ended so negatively. But I think there's still a lot of positive going into next year, and I'm trying to, as a Tennessee fan, focus more on that. I think the team could really, they could have a really good team next year that can compete in some games. So, but yeah, hate that call. Really did, personally.
All right, I'll keep it brief. Maybe Derek can talk more about the rule, but as far as the Bush push against the pool goes, as a Tennessee fan, I feel like there was some pull. But outside of that, I'll just keep it stats and whatnot. Fun game to watch. As a football fan, I mean, not my cup of tea. You guys know I like the ugly defensive run games, low scoring, but that was quite enjoyable. The fourth quarter was electrifying. Hooker, 5 tutties, no picks. It was a hell of a game. But now I'll just say great season. Really, I mean, tough losing the bowl game, sure, but there's got to be a lot of optimism going into next year. Proud of what they did this year. Exceeded all expectations, I believe. I can't imagine a logical UT fan having higher expectations than what they accomplished this year. But a fun game, and I look forward to seeing kind of what Heupel does next year.
Yeah, Michael, I think you recapped a lot of the things that I was really going to say, and Colby as well. Allowing O'Connell to throw for 534 yards, which I'm pretty sure is the most that Tennessee's ever allowed in a single game, that obviously hurts. Forcing 3 turnovers and only allowing 1 and still losing the game, that hurts. Penalties killed us. 128 yards worth of penalties. Don't get me started on that ref crew. But I do want to talk about, the first thing I want to talk about something optimistic. If you look at our stat leaders from this game, obviously Hooker will be back next year. Jabari Small will be back next year. Tillman will be back next year. So I think there's a lot of optimism around the program. I think Heupel did an outstanding job this season. Purdue is not an easy, going to roll over opponent. They beat Iowa when they were ranked in the top 5 earlier this season. They beat Michigan State when they were ranked in the top 5 earlier this season. So, overall, I'm very proud of, what the team did this season. But I did almost go on a rant on Facebook. So I went through the 200 and something page rule book in the NCAA. I didn't read it all. I don't have time for that. But I did like a control find thing to try to find what I was looking for. And by the letter of the law, and Michael, I think you touched on this, if a player pulls, technically the ball should be a dead ball. It should be done. Now, on the flip side of that, if that's the rule, why did the ref not blow the whistle? Why did they not signal? They let them continue to play. And that's, I think, the part that's super duper frustrating, because if that is the rule and that's what they're going to say, they didn't call it on the field. So, I think it's just overall, it's very irritating. And also, it's not like that would have ended the game. I think that's irritating too. Purdue would have got the ball back. So, it would have been more football. I just don't like that call in that situation, especially on something super duper ticky tacky like that, because he was not down. The ball was stretched across, but I guess it's history at this point. Paul Feinbaum said we won the game, so that's what I'm going to go with.
He did.
Interesting take, Derek. You guys know me. I'm such a nice person. I'm a super nice guy. You know how kind I am.
That's the boldest thing you've ever said on this podcast.
You know how kind I am to the Tennessee football program, their players, their fans, everything. All right, the calls on the field were not good. Yeah, I'll come right out and say that they were bad, and I think Derek is having technical difficulties, or he's just really tired of hearing my voice. I can't tell which.
Just keep. He'll get back.
But anyway, so the problem with this play was you had two bad calls in the same play, and Tennessee fans are looking at it and saying, "Oh, look, this was a bad call. We should have won." And Purdue fans are looking at it and saying, "Oh no, because there was this other bad call. So even if they had gotten that call, you still would have lost." And it's just one of those things where the refs just messed it up altogether. You'd like to just see the play redone, honestly. I do think he was across the line before forward progress was called. And then on the other hand, like Derek said, he 100% got hauled into the end zone by a Tennessee player. I went back and watched the replay, tried to do it unbiased, but he did get hauled into the end zone. So it is what it is. Like I said, you wish you could just wash it all out and redo the down. But it is what it is. Believe me, I've had my share of heartbreak losses. I don't think anything will ever be as painful as the kick six loss was. I don't think there's a sports loss that will. I mean, 2nd and 26 probably hurts for Georgia.
Your losses are few and far between.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It makes them all the more bitter, though. And it was to Auburn, an in-state rival. But anyway, I say that to say, for Tennessee, this really does suck to lose like that. Try not to let it taint the season they had, because they did do a lot this season. They saw some positive things happen. Just build off that. Use that as your motivation in the offseason. For Purdue, don't let that play taint the fact that you just had a great season and you won a bowl game. Don't discredit Purdue. I think their QB threw for 500-plus yards. I mean, don't get me wrong. The refs bungled this call multiple ways. But Tennessee had other problems to worry about as well, as did Purdue. The defenses are a glaring point that they both need to address. But bottom line, both teams take as many positives as you can away from it. And I look forward to seeing where both teams go next year.
Yeah. I think that's well said. I mean, it's rough. Obviously, as Tennessee fans, it's just tough at it the way it did. It's hard not to be biased, but overall, yeah, there were some other issues. Like I said, I addressed even the part about trying to get in field goal range. I still can't wrap my mind around that. But I wasn't even mad he missed the field goal, honestly. I mean, it was 50-some yarder. So kind of want to just put that one, and behind me there and just move on, and like you said, there's some positives that come out of this year and I think for next season as well. But so yeah, moving on from with college football, the NFL there. With I want to start with Titans win. So the winner division. We're 1 seed right now, and we're going to the playoffs. And hopefully Derrick Henry will be back. So from what I'm hearing, I think that he will. So and ready to go. I'm really excited about the Titans taking that division and getting to the playoffs. I think not having him half the season, it was made me a little nervous about it. But again, I really think they can make a push in the playoffs if they get everybody back healthy. And from what it's looking like, it's all kind of coming together here at the end for them. So they kind of survived. And I'll be disappointed if they don't at least push into the playoffs a little bit with that. So, but I'm pumped. I'm pumped that they're there. Defense has looked great lately too. So that's another thing that really has me pumped for the playoffs as well. So going into that, getting Henry back. I think Julio Jones is coming back again. He's just, who knows? He's had a lot of injuries though. I think though Henry and AJ Brown honestly are your big factors for their offense. As long as they're playing healthy, and Tannehill has, of course, Tannehill and having AJ Brown to throw to and Derrick Henry to hand the ball off to. Also, one thing I want to take from this last game, remember we had was it Foreman? Is that he had over 100 yards? That's going to help in the playoffs. So Derrick Henry coming back, he's still someone to share some of those rush attempts. I mean, obviously, if Henry's just going, just keep feeding it to him, but it can kind of give him a break here and there as well. I think he could be a good backup there to him. Colby, I know you probably have something you really wanted to say on this game.
Yeah, guys, words can't express how damn excited I am. And I know that we're going to get disappointed week 1 or week 2 of the playoffs, but I just want to enjoy it for the time being. We have no business being here. We don't. I don't know how we got here, but we're here. We lost our offense, early in the year. I will say kudos to Foreman, the past couple weeks, picking it up. He's looked real good. Tannehill kind of keep it together. I will say defense I never thought would be our strong suit, but it's been incredible. It really has. The run defense has been, best in the league over the past month or so. We picked up Zach Cunningham, and that seems to have been a huge difference for us. And with a Mike Vrabel-led team, I mean, that's a player's coach. That's somebody that I want to run through a wall for. He should win Coach of the Year. If he doesn't, it's a travesty. Sadly, it's can we get past the Texans? If we can get past the Texans, which is weirdly a big if, but if we can get past the Texans, then we might be sitting pretty. And I said it, later in the year, we had a late bye week, and I said, has any team needed a bye week more than the Titans do right now with the amount of injuries that we? And same thing with the playoffs. Has any team needed a first-round bye more than the Titans? Even if Julio's healthy or halfway healthy, just having him out there as a decoy. I don't care if he catches a pass or two. Just having him out there as a somewhat threat would help us. But we'll see. We'll talk more next week. I'll be interested to see if we can get past the Davis Mills-led Texans and kind of secure up that 1 seed.
Yeah, I'm going to let you finish on talking about Vrabel being Coach of the Year. And I think he should be, but do not be shocked if Zach Taylor gets in. The turnaround that the Bengals have made this year has been sensational. And to be honest with you, the Titans probably need to buy a bottle of champagne for the Bengals for allowing them to get that 1 seed. I mean, that was a huge win for them. I don't think it would be a huge shock for us to talk about the Bengals being a Super Bowl contender even as early as next year. They have a good defense. Joe Burrow has them playing as well as ever. Jamar Chase is for real. Joe Mixon's a great running back. I'm just saying it wouldn't shock me if they even won a game or two in the playoffs this season. But yeah, hopefully the Titans take care of business, get that bye week, get back healthy. I do think Henry. I think they said I could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they said Henry could technically be activated this week. I see zero reason to play him, but he could be activated, which is just a good sign because that means that he's healing up. He'll be ready to go for the playoffs. But I do think that they've shown a little bit more depth in that running back room. Foreman has played pretty well, so hopefully they get that 1 seed, get that week off, and take advantage of that. Heal up.
Titans are for real. We all knew that they had a really good chance to win that division. Some adversity hit. They managed to get through it, won a couple of key games without Henry that they needed to win, and now it's looking like hopefully they'll have him back when they really need him. So look forward to seeing what they got in.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, like Colby said too earlier, exciting times. Even if we don't, even if we're disappointed here soon, it's always exciting when it's a playoff team. You know your team's there. And also, one thing I want to add real quick is big if here, all the stars got aligned. But if the Titans, of course, win next week or the 1 seed, and then they do make it to the AFC Championship game, which will be in Nashville, I will actually be at that. So
let's go.
I'm trying not to get excited because, you get your money back if you don't. But my stepdad actually talked with me, and he's so we got 2 tickets if it goes there. So, but once in a lifetime thing there, you gotta go if it does happen. So, but big if on that one. But yeah, kind of one more recap on another NFL game here. Panthers Saints. Derek, y'all are 1-1 with them now this season. Saints take that game. Saints, from what I see, aren't eliminated from the playoffs. I don't know what the road is for Matt. I'm sure you do know, but I don't know what the road is for them to get there. But
I think San Fran has to lose and New Orleans has to win this week.
That's correct.
And San Fran plays.
San Fran has the Rams and the Saints and the Falcons.
At this point, I'm wondering, do I even want the Saints to make it? And the answer is, heck yeah, I do. Let's go. Okay, but yeah, that's it.
Bet you can't wait to watch them lose to the Bucs in the first round.
I don't know. 2-0 versus them this year. We'll see.
They would need Tom Brady to Antonio Brown that for them to lose.
They literally have beaten the Bucs twice this year.
That is true. They're not going to beat him a third time.
They're literally the only team who's handled Brady over the past 2 years remotely well.
That is true. That is true.
I'm just saying.
I will say,
don't count them out. I'm going the Bucs will be projected to win. Just don't count the Saints out if they play them. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, if the Saints make the playoffs, I just want to say what a great success on their part for the way to be in playoff talk for them. Matt, I know early in the season you pretty much given up at one point, and for a good reason. It kind of looked like it, and they're in a position to be there at least. So.
You do have to credit Sean Payton for putting together. I know it's an 8-8 season right now, but considering he's without his starting quarterback, has been without his second string quarterback much of the season, has been without his third string quarterback much of the season, and has been without a top 5 receiver in the NFL. There's something to be said for what he's done with this ragtag bunch here. So.
Top 5 receiver.
No, it's good.
Top 5, yes, sir.
That's funny.
Top 5.
That's funny.
When he was healthy, yes, 100%.
Agree to disagree.
I don't agree to disagree. You will conform to my beliefs.
There's a 0% chance that I will conform to that. Regardless,
let the record reflect Derek has conformed to my beliefs.
That's not what the record shows. But, good for the Saints to even be here and have a chance at it. I know we're going to talk about predictions for who's in and who's out. But honestly, like Matt said, hats off to Sean Payton. The defense has really carried that team a lot. But, 8-8, there you are you're on your third string quarterback. You haven't had your best wide receiver. Kamara's missed time. and here you are. You've got technically a shot at going to the playoffs. So, yeah, good for them.
So, kind of take care, I think. Colby, did you have anything you want to add in on that part?
I'll make it real brief. Watching Taysom Hill play quarterback is watching Peyton Manning take a sack. It's scary. It's not fun. I cringe.
I think if all four of us went and tried to run our best 40-yard dash time, that would be more entertaining than watching Taysom Hill play quarterback in the National Football League.
Unless he's scrambling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He
Takes
can
off
run the
running.
ball. Yeah, for sure. We're talking about like
Yeah.
actually dropping back and throwing it past like a quarterback, which is weird because that's his position that he gets paid like $40 million a year to do because the Saints make really good choices.
Hill
Did you
had
say $40 million a year?
I was kidding.
Okay.
His contract is like $20 million a year, though, isn't it? If he plays
I
quarterback,
don't think so.
I thought it was 4 years.
It was
$8
like
million.
10 mil.
I don't know. It's neither
I don't
here nor
know.
there. It's a bad deal, no matter what how you shake it.
So kind of moving us I guess the recaps. Then we'll get into some of the predictions. Looks like we're going to start off with the national championship predictions. So Bama versus Georgia. You guys want to go ahead and make those predictions this podcast?
I'll make
We'll do
mine
it. It's
short
coming
and
up.
sweet because you all know before a big game, I don't like to talk too much smack. And I'm not going to. This Georgia team, I'm not going to discredit them. They're a good team. They deserve to be here 100%. We said like week 3 that these were the top 2 teams, and we were right.
Yeah.
So all I'm going to say is roll Tide. Let's go.
I'll go ahead and say my decision factor is who has a better game, N'Kobe Dean or Will Anderson. That is what it'll come down to. Who has better stats? I'm going to go ahead and say Bama by 9.
I've got 2 numbers that are of importance. 41 and 24. That was the final score last time these 2 teams played. Give me Bama. Give them to
The
me
final
by-
score the last 2 times these teams played, actually.
Is it really? So, yeah, I mean, I think Bama will win this. I think it'll be close, but I do think Bama wins, and I'm going to say Bama by 10. 34-24. Final answer.
I think definitely going to be a good game. Going to be a close, exciting championship. I mean, if it's anything like the last time these 2 played in the championship. Georgia is known for notoriously choking in some of the games. I mean, it's just how it is. They get so close. They look the part. I think they got that out of the way in the SEC championship, and I'm actually going to take Georgia in a very close game over Bama. I hate to do that to you, Matt, but I want to take
I
a
would have
different
been
take here
more
on it.
worried if we had all taken Bama.
So I'm gonna go ahead for you, Matt, and play so it's not completely jinxed on you there, and I'm gonna say Georgia breaks that curse. I really do. I don't know. I mean, I think I can see it going either way. I wouldn't be surprised, but I definitely hope just for an exciting game. I mean, because the last time these 2 teams played in the championship, we all know how that went, and it was wild. So
I really think this game comes down to the quarterbacks, honestly. Can Stetson Bennett do what he needs to do? You know, last time he had a couple of really costly mistakes, last 2 times actually. And then on the flip side, Bryce Young, he's without John Mechie this time. If I were Georgia, I'd be keeping a safety over the top of Jameson Williams all game because he burned them twice last time. So can somebody in the wide receiver group step up for Bama? Can Bryce Young spread the ball out to other guys besides Williams? Or is Stetson Bennett gonna finally earn his clutch factor here?
Yeah. And then keeping it on college football, we kind of talked about what we're going to do this podcast. I think we could go ahead and just to keep it on that before we move on to the NFL for some future things, but maybe kind of the season's coming to an end here. We're going to, maybe pick our overachievers and our underachievers for this year in college football. I think, and we can go with like a player, a team, a coach, however we want to choose on that. Let's go ahead and get the bad out of the way and start with underachiever. I'm going to take North Carolina Tar Heels. I heard word of them having potential Heisman candidate quarterback, possibly winning the ACC this year, and then for them to just go 6-6 on the season and then lose to South Carolina embarrassingly in a bowl game. For me, that's the North Carolina Tar Heels as a team. I'll just take the team on that as an underachiever.
Yeah. Like we talked about before the show, I'm going to stick with just underachievers. I don't like the whole happiness thing of overachievers. So I'm just going to stick with Clemson. And look, that might be lazy. I feel like I don't
think so.
Yeah, I mean, most people barely pay attention to football and know Clemson was not up to expectation. And look, I mean, they lost to what? Georgia, North Carolina State, and Pittsburgh, who were all in the top 25 at the time. But, after the past 10 years, that's not what we expect. You can't lose those games if you're Dabo, or else we're going to call it a disappointment. And that's exactly what it was. DJ last name, was supposed to be a Heisman finalist. That went south real quick. So clearly, down year for them. I fully expect them to be back this year or next year, but we'll see. I don't like it, but I'm not going to count Dabo out. So I fully expect them to, sweep away the who cares ACC and find their way into the playoff. So,
yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how their coaching changes take place next year too. Losing their OC and their DC, they did seem to get a little bit better as the season went, but yeah, they got to address the quarterback position. But anyways, my underachiever is Spencer Rattler. I would say he was probably the sports book's favorite to win the Heisman based off of last season. Things started off rocky. They barely beat Tulane, barely beat Nebraska, West Virginia, Kansas State, Texas, and Texas wasn't even good. So that's not an impressive thing. His teammates didn't even seem to like him. I don't even know if his parents like him. I don't even know what the situation is there. But when you come into the season expecting to be like the Heisman front runner, and then you're transferring at the end of the year, it's not a good thing. So Spencer Rattler, big disappointment.
Did you do your overachiever?
I think we're
just doing underachievers.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to kind of piggyback off Colby's pick here. I was going to go a different way with this, but looking back on it, I got to go with DJ Uiagalelei as my underachiever of the year. Yes, his name was pronounced right. No, the Heisman picks for him preseason were not right. He was a flat-out disappointment. 9 passing touchdowns to 10 interceptions, around 2,400 yards, very mediocre numbers, probably below average numbers, honestly. Definitely not what you want to see out of a powerhouse program like Clemson. And yeah, I think Dabo's got some decisions to make, because that kind of performance, it's not going to get you to the playoffs. You're going to be going 10-3, if that, for a couple seasons if you leave him there.
Yeah, so those are pretty good. And I agree with all those. I think that most people will. Getting on the flip side of things, more positive, which Colby has opted to step out on that one. But we're going to do, as far as the overachievers for the season, I'm going to go with Coach Heupel. Obviously, Tennessee fan, but just in general, like as a college football fan, I think everybody could agree that Coach Heupel did more with that team than was actually expected. At the end, the way it ended at the end of the year with team players transferring out, new coach, it just didn't look good. And so yeah, I'm going to go with Coach Heupel on that. I think that for an overachiever this year, I think he, even though with the bowl loss, he just did really well with that team and got it competitive again, got the atmosphere back. And for once, it finally feels like we have a really good coach, and it's something I just really haven't felt like in several years, honestly. So.
Yeah, and I think I know I wasn't at the game, and obviously the fans kind of ruined the atmosphere in the Ole Miss game, but that was like prime Neyland. And how long has it been since we've seen that? I think there's a lot of
Probably since the last head coach, I think.
Okay, I don't think so. It's just different.
Butch Jones over Georgia. That's when you last felt that feeling.
That was probably it. But I don't know. My overachiever is going to piggyback off of Michael's a little bit here. Hendon Hooker, I mean, hats off to him. Almost threw for 3,000 yards, 31 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions, ran for another 620 yards with 5 rushing touchdowns. And he didn't even start the first 2 games. So, that Pitt game may have been different if he was our starter. So I'm definitely going to go with Hendon Hooker. Hats off to him. Excited to have him back next year.
All right. My overachiever is going to be your local ETSU Buccaneers. What a season. 11-2. Made it to the FCS quarterfinals, I think. Yeah. Great season. Beat Vanderbilt, which, Power 5 school. We'll just leave it at that. But don't discredit that win at all. There's a gap between those conferences, a huge gap. And ETSU just kind of closed it there. I mean, that win alone would have made for a historic season for the football program. They didn't stop there. They won a couple of really close games, fought hard all season. And they definitely gave us alum, which I think we all are, something to be proud of. So go Bucks, man! What a season! And I know the coach is retiring, but I'm still looking forward to next year. There were a lot of positive things to take away from this season.
Yeah, and the team they lost to is playing in the championship game Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So, hats off to them. Great season. It's awesome that being so few years into this program, being rebuilt, and here they are being super competitive. So I love it. Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks. And so moving on from college football world, we'll get back to the NFL. And we'll go with kind of talking about the playoffs coming up and maybe some of our playoff predictions on. I guess, Derek, I know we talked with you about this earlier. You kind of thinking maybe who we think is going to get in, because I know there's some right now that are already in, but there are some sitting on a bubble, kind of seeing how we're going to go with that there. So if you want to start off with that, with some of your playoff predictions here for us.
Yeah, I got it. So obviously when the NFL, you get to this point in the season, there are a lot of crazy scenarios that could play out. So we've got 2 seeds in the AFC that are up for grabs, and there's 1 in the NFC, which I'm really excited for the playoffs, but we'll get to that, next week during the podcast. But looking at the last 2 spots in the AFC, you have the Colts, Chargers, Raiders, Steelers, and technically Ravens all have a shot left at those 2 spots in the AFC. In the NFC, you have the 49ers and you have the Saints. So my honest opinion is Indianapolis is not going to lose to Jacksonville. So I think Indianapolis will win that game. And once they do that, it becomes the winner of the Chargers and Raiders. And I do think that the Chargers will go into Las Vegas and win that game. So pulling for the Raiders. However, I'm not pulling for the Colts either. So, but I do think it's going to be Colts Chargers that lock up those last 2 spots in the AFC. And in the NFC, I'm sorry, Matt, this isn't because I don't like the Saints. I think the 49ers are going to beat the Rams. They beat them 31-10 earlier this season. The Rams have looked really shaky. They've not looked like the same team in the back half of the season. And I expect the Saints to beat the Falcons. But, I think San Francisco is going to win that game. I think they're playing really good football right now. So I think the Saints are out. So give me the 49ers, Colts, and Chargers.
As you guys know, I absolutely despise agreeing with Derek. It's one of my least favorite things in the world. Do think the Chargers will make playoffs there. obviously a Raiders fan, but Chargers good team, and they deserve to get in. I shouldn't say deserve. They look excellent. Whether or not they're actually a good team is a completely different story. But as far as paper goes, they deserve to get in. I will disagree with him on the Niners and Rams. Yeah, I mean, they got Jimmy G with like half a thumb or something. I don't even know what they're throwing out there at quarterback. But, the Rams, I mean, they're a dangerous team. Look, I feel like, as I've said before, on paper, they should be better, but, they're going to beat the Niners. Saints are going to weirdly find their way in the playoffs, which is super weird. Can't wait to see Taysom Hill lead a playoff team. It'll be like the year Joe Webb led Minnesota in the playoffs. So, always a fun week. Last week of the season, so kind of excited to see it.
Yeah, and I want to piggyback off what you said. So it could just because I referenced this earlier. So if the Saints do make it in, I think if Philly wins, and obviously there's 800 scenarios. Well, they're playing the Cowboys this week, so who knows? But I think they'd draw the Rams, so I don't think they'd get Brady and the Bucks again, as it stands right now. But I could be wrong.
Didn't Philly already clinch though?
Philly's clinched,
Mhm.
yeah. But again, the NFL playoffs are crazy. San Francisco is technically listed as the 6th seed. They have the tiebreaker over Philly, but
Right.
Philly is already clinched. Probably because they would have had
Okay.
the tiebreaker over New Orleans somehow. I haven't looked into it.
All right, I'll ignore what Derek's saying. Keep this short and sweet. Colts make it into the playoffs. Raiders make it into the playoffs. And then Saints make it into the playoffs. Taysom Hill becomes Super Bowl MVP with 3 pass attempts for 3 pick sixes, but 700 yards rushing from the QB spot. Just kidding, Saints. That's probably not going to happen. But guess what? You are going to earn a playoff spot. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree completely with Colby on everything. I do have Colts, Chargers. I mean, Colts are gonna go in and beat a dumpster fire of the Jaguars. That's just how it is. Taylor's probably gonna have 200 yards rushing, but and then on the other side, I do think the Saints are going to get in. I think the Rams – I do think it'll be a close game, but I think the Rams are going to beat the 49ers. And Saints are going to beat the Falcons. Be interesting to see if both lost, though, kind of how that would go there. But with the 49ers, which I guess 49ers would still be in then over them. So, but, yeah, definitely interested to see how it's going to go here at the end. But I do think we all kind of on the same page a little, but some things are different there. But I do agree with Colby on fully on that. As far as next week goes, well, of course, we're going to do possible upset of the week. And I'll go ahead and start with mine, and I'm going to go with the Dolphins over the Patriots. I hope that happens, and I hope the Patriots, it just sends them in with just the fact they made the playoffs this year. So here they are, but no offense to Mac Jones, Matt, but you all know I hate the Patriots. So I'm going to go with the Dolphins upsetting the Patriots right before the playoffs start.
Great pick. I'm going to go with the Eagles over the Cowboys. I know they've already clinched, but I like what Jalen's doing. At the start of the year, I thought he was the best bad quarterback I've seen. Kind of like the Titans are the best bad team or the worst good team I've seen. It's something like that. I can't figure him out, but I don't know. I mean, Cowboys looked shaky last week. I really don't think the Cardinals are that good of a team. And granted, the Cowboys kind of fought their way back, but I can see the Eagles win this. I do. They got a great run game. Even when the running backs aren't healthy, they find a way to do it. Passing's a little ugly, but I don't know. I just got a feeling on this one. I like to see Jalen kind of overtake the Cowboys. Obviously, don't like the Cowboys, but we'll see. I think it should be interesting.
Good pick. The Eagles have not lost since 11-28 when they lost to the Giants. The Cowboys are going to win the game. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, I could see it going either way. It is in Philly. My upset of the week, I wish I had some long-winded answer, but I don't. I am taking the Lions to beat the Packers purely because I don't think the Packers are going to play anybody. That's it. That's the tweet.
So, fair.
And I will also have not much profound wisdom to say. Seahawks over Cardinals because I feel like it. I don't make the rules. The answers come to me, and I dispense them upon this audience. Do with it what you will. I cannot be held liable for any bets made on this statement.
I'm just proud of you for saying something funny, like for once. It's like the first time ever. It's the first time. Can we put a banner?
You want to hear something funny? I think you're great. You're my best friend.
I honestly was expecting some Carolina Panthers comment, so I will take that.
Oh, okay, well, there we go. Progress. Unlike the Panthers football team.
No argument.
Good do. Yeah, so some good takes on that, guys. With playoffs coming up, I think, if you was a coach of a team, you would want to really say something motivational for your players. You'd want them to be ready, And I'm just going to give it up to Coach Derek on this one because I feel like Coach Derek has something he'd like to say to any of the players who are just getting ready to start these wonderful playoffs.
Don't ever, for any reason whatsoever, take your shirt off in the middle of the game and quit on your team.
You heard it there.
He's had
Good
one.
advice.
Tune in next time to either hear words of encouragement from myself or, if Alabama loses, words of how to deal with extreme depression. Because I'm going to be a sad, sad person if Alabama loses.
What do you do if Bama loses and the Saints don't make it in the playoffs?
I will be crushed. I don't care what happens to any of my sports teams in comparison to Alabama. If Alabama wins, it's a good sports year. Anything else is just dust in the wind.
Tell me you're a spoiled fan.
Although I would really like the Yankees to eventually win the division and win another Super Bowl, but I don't think that's.
Do you want to hear
happen.
something depressing? Being a Panthers and a Pirates fan, that is depressing.
Tune in next week for therapy sessions by On the Offside. Maybe we may have to really help Matt out next week. We'll see how it goes.
If Alabama loses, I won't be attending next podcast.
Okay.
You won't want me on here. I'll be foul company for a week.
We'll just play highlights from the game the whole time.
Statement.
There will be tear stains on my cheeks if Alabama loses. I'm having thoughts in my head about nightmares of where Georgia's flat in the first half and they come out in the second half and put in JT Daniels and he leads them to a national championship like Alabama did with Tua.
We've seen that before.
This is a real fear I have, okay?
I do like JT Daniels. I don't see that happening. But I want to make one thing clear before we sign off. I'm pulling for Alabama. It is not good for Tennessee if Georgia goes out there and gets a national championship. So
that's true, Tennessee fans. This is going to hurt your recruiting. If you ever want to get control of the East, you better pull for Alabama.
I did pick Georgia, but I'm pulling for Bama on this too.
You guys can be real. You don't have to pull for anyone. You can hope they both forfeit. I get it.
Oh well, yeah. If that was an option. But I do want to see a championship game. So
I'm sick of seeing forfeits. Let's play the game.
Yeah.
Let's go.
True. Get out there and play it. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm sure we'll have some good stuff to talk about. But thank you all as usual. If you are watching this, like, subscribe, comment. And thank you guys. We'll see you.
Peace.